The blast radius calculations had been wrong. Lieutenant Naomi Red realized this in the half-second before the plasma mine detonated, when she saw the small form of Prince Karul frozen in the kill zone. The young predator's amber eyes were wide with the kind of terror that transcended species, his scaled body paralyzed by instinct rather than courage. Humans weren't supposed to be fast enough to outrun plasma fire. Every species in the Galactic Council knew this. Humans were the slow ones, the weak ones, the species that had somehow clawed their way to the stars through stubbornness rather than evolution's gifts. But evolution had never accounted for adrenaline. Naomi's body moved before her mind finished the thought. Her combat boots tore through the red soil of Vakresh Prime as she launched herself forward, armor servos screaming in protest. She grabbed Karul by his ceremonial chest plate and twisted, putting her own body between the cub and the erupting ball of superheated death. The last thing she remembered was the sound. Not the explosion itself, but Karul's high-pitched shriek of her name in broken standard. Then white, then nothing. She woke to silk. Not the rough medical sheets of a field hospital, not the sterile gel of a regeneration pod. Silk. Deep crimson silk that felt like liquid against her skin, embroidered with golden thread and patterns that seemed to move in her peripheral vision. Naomi sat up slowly, and the room came into focus. Crystal pillars that reached toward a vaulted ceiling, bioluminescent plants that pulsed with soft purple light, windows that showed 3 moons hanging in a lavender sky. This wasn't a hospital. This was a palace. You're awake. The voice came from the shadows, low and rumbling like distant thunder. A figure emerged into the light, tall, covered in midnight black scales that reflected the room's glow, with silver markings that denoted royalty among the Vakresh. Emperor Talzarath, Karul's father. Naomi tried to stand to salute, but her body wouldn't cooperate. The Emperor raised a clawed hand. "Do not strain yourself, Lieutenant Red. Your injuries were extensive." "The prince?" Her voice came out as a rasp. "Alive because of you." Talzarath moved closer, and she could see the mixture of emotions in his reptilian features. Gratitude, confusion, something that might have been grief. "The physician said your body absorbed 93% of the blast. Your spine was shattered. Your organs were failing. By all accounts, you should have died within minutes. But I didn't." Naomi looked down at her hands, flexing fingers that should have been slag. "Why?" "Because my son wouldn't let you." The Emperor's tail swept across the floor, and what she'd learned was a gesture of respect. "He carried you himself, Lieutenant. Through enemy lines, through bombardment, for 7 kilometers. He threatened our head physician with exile if you weren't saved. And when they said it was impossible," Talzarath's voice dropped. "He invoked the debt of blood." Naomi's throat went dry. She'd studied Vakresh culture during the diplomatic mission briefings. The debt of blood was ancient, sacred, a bond that tied savior and saved for life. Among the predator species, it was more binding than marriage, stronger than law. I didn't know he could. Neither did I until he did it. The Emperor's laugh was bitter. "The debt can only be invoked once per lifetime, and traditionally between warriors of equal standing. My son used his on a human soldier." He paused. "You should also know that in invoking it, he declared you his bloodshield, his protector, his equal." The implications crashed over her like a second explosion. "Your Majesty, I can't. The ceremony was 3 days ago while you slept. The Council has already recognized it." Talzarath gestured toward an ornate chair near the window. "No, not a chair. A throne. That is yours now, Lieutenant Red, the throne of the bloodshield. No one has sat in it for 3 generations." Naomi stared at the throne, at the silver and gold inlays that matched the ones on the Emperor's scales. "I'm a soldier. I don't know how to be, whatever this is. You knew how to save my son. That was just..." She struggled for the words. "That was just what anyone would do." "No." Talzarath's eyes glowed brighter, and she realized he was holding back emotion. "It is what a human would do. The other species, they calculate. They weigh cost versus benefit. They consider the political ramifications of letting royalty die." His tail struck the ground with emphasis. "You didn't think. You just moved. And now my son lives, and you..." He gestured at the room. "You are bound to him until one of you falls in battle." The door burst open. Prince Karul stood in the entrance, no longer the small, terrified cub from her memories. He wore formal armor now, silver plates over his crimson scales, but his eyes held the same fear she'd seen in the blast zone. Naomi. He crossed the room in 3 bounds, dropping to his knees beside the bed. His clawed hands hovered over hers, trembling. You're awake. I thought, the physician said you might never. I'm okay. The words felt inadequate. Your father told me about the debt. Carul's head lifted and she saw pride mixing with uncertainty in his young features. I would invoke it again. 10,000 times. You saved my life. And now I'm stuck as your blood shield. She tried to sound angry, but it came out tired instead. You don't want it. It wasn't a question. Carul's shoulders slumped. Naomi looked at the young prince, then at the throne she never wanted, then at the emperor who watched them both with ancient eyes. She thought about the mission briefings that had warned her Vakresh were apex predators, cold and calculating. She thought about how none of those briefings had mentioned that they could love fiercely enough to carry a dying human through a war zone. I didn't want it, she said slowly, but that doesn't mean I won't do it. Carul's eyes widened. You'll stay? Someone has to keep you out of blast zones. Naomi managed a smile. Besides, I've never backed down from a mission before. Not starting now. The emperor made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. The council will be displeased. Let them be. Naomi looked at the throne again, and this time it seemed less like a prison and more like a post. A duty station. Something she understood. I took the explosion for the prince. I'll take whatever comes next too. Carul's hand finally settled on hers carefully as if she might break. You are the first human blood shield in our history. Good. Naomi squeezed back, feeling the strength returning to her fingers. Then I don't have any mistakes to live up to. Just have to figure it out as I go. Outside the windows, the 3 moons of Vakresh Prime hung like watchful eyes. Inside, a human soldier who had never wanted a throne found herself preparing to sit on one anyway. Because that's what humans did. They adapted. They persevered. They protected what mattered, cost be damned.